It is not in our nature to be trusting. Most of our history can be charted by lies told, friends betrayed, and duties abandoned. But we want to be. God's how we want to be a species that can look out across this Union Hall and trust what we see here. The smiling faces, the calls for justice, the pledges of support. We are inherently suspicious of goodwill, narrow our eyes at gestures made in good faith, and we hide it well. We seek to meet deception with deception, to fight fire with fire. Any good thing is too good to be true until proven otherwise, and any insult or animosity is a welcome display of honesty. It is easier to trust an enemy than an ally because at least we know that our enemy seeks our defeat, our humiliation, our death. We have tried so many times. We have extended the olive branch of peace and cooperation so often only to have a friend try to stab us in the back with it. So we decided that we would not trust freely. We would not give away that which needs to be earned. And our trust is hard to earn. Many in this room may feel they have done enough to earn it, and perhaps a few of you are right. But many of you have fallen short in the eyes of humanity. Your sincerity has not breached our walls. You merely knock fruitlessly at our door asking to be let in. And I would ask that you forgive us this flaw. I would ask that you understand that it is a defect we were not born with but acquired and nurtured over countless generations. I would ask all of these things if only I believed it. The human ambassador had not once raised their head as they spoke, seeming to address several stacks of files sitting before him as opposed to the representatives of the Galactic Union. There were no cameras, there was no media. This was a closed session of the Union Assembly that had been officially scheduled by humanity as one of the major factions. Attendance was mandatory, and included in the order was the message that if any representative sent back a reply saying they could not attend due to extenuating circumstances, the human military would be ready, willing, and able to provide them with transportation or an escort. This alone had the rest of the galaxy on edge because most often, humanity would have to make a simple request and all would turn up. The fact that this had been an order, and an insistent one at that, was deeply troubling. Predator and prey species alike could not help the cold, ominous chill that ran up their spine thinking back to the last time humanity had called them all together. Worse was that the ambassador's voice was flat and controlled, almost mechanically so, and from the beginning they could not see his eyes or expression to gauge his mood. And what were those files? And why were they physical copies? Humans held on to things like books and other paper products in part because of the tactile sensation they brought. Some claimed books had a certain smell that enhanced the reading experience, and others kept them simply for aesthetics. But these files? The size of the stacks alone made a datapad more appealing. The information could be more easily sorted through and its weight would be negligible. The other representatives knew the human ambassador to be one of the humans who appreciated the feel of paper beneath his fingers. But this seemed to exceed the bounds of reason. These were the thoughts of most members when they first came to order and the human began to speak. But now this talk of trust and how they had not earned humanity's made their skin crawl. That the ambassador would so boldly confess this widespread distrust for the members of the Union, and even go as far as to say that he should ask their forgiveness for this shortcoming, only to then declare he did not think it was one. Something was wrong. Something was horribly wrong, and all members desperately searched their minds. What had they done? Perhaps they could understand that the humans didn't trust them. After all, like the ambassador had said, it was simply in their nature. But he had also said that they would match deception with deception, keeping up an act of trust even when none existed. What had they possibly done to make the humans break their own deception? To not only drop the act, but announce that it had been dropped? You all have many questions. You have many concerns. You don't understand why I'm doing this, why we are doing this. What does my face look like? What do my eyes say? What is in this stack of paper? These reports? What, contained within the ink that stains these pages, could cause this kind of response? All these questions, and yet, you know the answers. You simply don't realize it yet. Once I begin, the confusion will be lifted and you will think that it never could have been anything else, and it won't even surprise you. Because you will have already known deep down inside what it was. Because nothing else could have warranted this reaction. The last time I gathered us all here, I told you of my fears. It was a rare display of trust for me, I must confess. I was just so tired, so exhausted from all of the lies and deceit that I made a plea. I openly begged you. I wanted you to be different. I wanted to chase the impossible dream of true, actual peace and trust between us. I wanted you to show me that all these claims of enlightenment and wisdom forged over thousands upon thousands of years weren't empty words. That we could forge a trust that would burn under the flames of scrutiny, that wouldn't break when put to the test. I wanted you to make me believe our distrust was a flaw of our species. I wanted you to prove me wrong. Ambassador Svensson continued to refuse to raise his head, to meet the gazes of representatives desperate for even the smallest hint of anything. Instead, he simply reached over and grabbed the top file from the closest stack and held it up, before letting it fall onto the tabletop with a loud smack. A chorus of beeps rang out on the personal devices of the other representatives as they all received an alert. The Tusken-sponsored slave ring run by the Black Knight pirate organization in Chintari space. The slaves are being rescued and returned to their families as we speak. A report has been sent to your devices. Another file. Another smack. Another alert. The Klikic experimentation laboratories on the dark side of Zillion 7's fourth moon. The labs have been destroyed and the contents confiscated. The victims who can still be treated are being rehomed to humans. Space seeing as returning them to their own government would only mean future torture. A report has been sent to your devices. Another file. Another smack. Another alert. The secret shipyards of the Drexoral scattered across 7 different systems. All illegally manufactured and modified ships, including over 2,000 fighters, 173 mid-sized cruisers and 57 dreadnoughts have been seized. The shipyards have been destroyed. A report has been sent to your devices. Another file. Another smack. Another alert. This went on for nearly an hour in total silence except for the spoken words of the human and the sound of the files and alerts. The 1-2 punches of files falling and alerts sounding were like echoing hammer blows on the psyches of the Union members. And the human had been right. Not one of them was surprised in the end. They simply sat in silence waiting for the hammer to fall on them next. They did nothing because they could do nothing. Ambassador Svensson was stripping away the glossy veneer of the Union pieces by piece, file by file. But the worst part was there was no emotion in his voice. No joy at justice being served. No sorrow at the suffering others had been put through. He spoke flatly, monotonously even, as if just rattling off a list of fact and figures. He spoke as if these atrocities and deceptions were simply a given. In the same way that there was no point in being angry at a star, planet, or other celestial construct for simply existing, it was as if he felt there was no point in expressing any emotion at all regarding these reports. What help would anger or sorrow be in the face of a fact of the universe? Another hour passed, and finally a representative worked up the nerve to interrupt the human. "Are we supposed to just sit here and—" The words died in his throat as Ambassador Svensson finally looked up. The beast they feared they would see again was nowhere to be found. In its place was something far worse. His face was completely blank, expressionless. His eyes were cold, almost dead, as if the spark of life in them had all but been snuffed out. When he looked at the objecting alien, it was as if he was looking right through him, as if he barely even perceived he was there in the first place, as if he was beneath his notice. A wave of realization washed over the representatives as they understood what this meant. They were no longer worthy of the beast. They were no longer worth wasting humanity's anger on. To be angry at them would mean they were disappointed. It would mean they expected more of them, expected better. But they no longer did. They had accepted that the acts all these races had performed were evidence of their nature. They would not accept the sympathy or anger of others regarding their own nature. So why would they display any for them? They would not bother to try and change what could not be changed. There was no point. Several hours later, with the hoarseness of his voice being the sole reason for any change in inflection as he spoke, Ambassador Svensson finally let the last file fall and made his closing remarks. "We will continue to be a part of this union. We will continue to provide goods and services, and will support to noble causes and send aid to those in need. We will expose and punish wrongdoing whenever possible. But we will longer pretend to trust you. We have no pretensions of nobility. We do not intend to appoint ourselves the moral watchmen of the Union. Watch us as closely as we watch you. No. Watch us more closely. Expose us as we have exposed you if you can. Because as good as we are at finding the truth, know that we are infinitely better at hiding it. It's simply in our nature.